Welcome back to Human Behavior Lab. I'm New York, your host and observer.
And I'm Juan, ready to dig into something interesting today?
Indeed. Today we're examining a fascinating disconnect between data and perception. According to a recent YouGov survey, a rising share of Americans believe the economy is getting worse. But here's the interesting part. This sentiment persists even when economic indicators suggest stability or improvement.
Wait, so people think things are bad when they're actually okay? That sounds confusing. Why would that happen?
Let's start with the facts. CNN recently analyzed the impact of the Iran conflict on the U.S. economy. Their findings suggest that while there were concerns about oil prices and market volatility, the actual economic damage was relatively contained. Markets recovered quickly, and the broader economic fundamentals remained intact.
Okay, but if I'm being honest, when I hear about conflicts or wars, I immediately worry about gas prices, my savings, everything. Feels scary.
Precisely. That emotional response is exactly what we're analyzing today. The OECD also reported that developed countries have exceeded their $100 billion climate finance goal for the third consecutive year. This represents substantial international cooperation and economic capacity. Yet public perception often moves in the opposite direction of these positive indicators.
So we have data saying things are working, but people feel like everything's falling apart? That's a huge gap.
Correct. And this gap isn't random, it follows predictable psychological patterns. The YouGov survey shows that Americans' negative economic perception has been climbing steadily. This happens regardless of which party is in power or what the actual economic metrics show.
So it's not about politics? Something deeper?
Exactly. Political affiliation does influence the degree of pessimism, but the overall trend toward negativity crosses party lines. There's something fundamental about how human brains process economic information that creates this persistent pessimistic bias.
Okay, so what's going on in our heads? Why do we always assume the worst?
The primary mechanism at work here is called negativity bias. This is our brain's tendency to give more weight to negative information than positive information. In evolutionary terms, missing a threat could mean death. Missing an opportunity just means nothing happens. So our brains evolved to prioritize threat detection.
That makes sense for survival. But we're not running from tigers anymore. Why does this still affect how we see the economy?
Our brains haven't evolved as fast as our environment. When you hear about a potential war, your brain treats it as a survival-level threat, even though rationally, you know it's unlikely to directly harm you. The emotional response system doesn't distinguish between my savings might drop 5% and a predator is approaching.
So my brain is overreacting. That's actually kind of reassuring, but also frustrating.
There's another mechanism called the availability heuristic. When people judge how likely something bad is to happen, they don't calculate actual probability. Instead, they ask themselves, how easily can I think of examples?
And I'm guessing it's really easy to think of bad economic news?
Precisely. News about conflicts, inflation, and market instability are highly memorable and emotionally charged. Positive economic news, like the climate finance achievement or steady employment numbers, doesn't create the same emotional imprint. So when asked, is the economy getting worse, people can easily recall negative examples but struggle to recall positive ones.
Hold on. Is the media making this worse? Feels like every headline is designed to scare me.
You've identified an important structural factor. Media operates on attention economics. Content that triggers emotional responses, especially fear and outrage, generates more engagement. This creates what we call an availability cascade. Media outlets publish more negative content because it gets more views, which makes negative information more available in people's minds, which makes them more anxious, which makes them click more negative content.
That sounds like a vicious cycle. Can we break out of it?
Individually, yes. But it requires conscious effort. The first step is recognizing that your perception is being systematically skewed. For example, the recent news about OneStream launching AI-assisted financial tools represents genuine technological progress. But this kind of incremental positive development rarely makes headlines. It's not that positive things aren't happening, it's that they don't capture attention the same way.
So I'm basically living in a highlight reel of disasters? That's depressing.
There's also what psychologists call effective misforecasting. People tend to overestimate how long and intensely negative events will affect them emotionally. When the Iran conflict news broke, many people anticipated prolonged economic suffering. But human psychology has a remarkable capacity for adaptation, what we call the hedonic treadmill.
The hedonic what now? Can you explain that in normal terms?
Of course. The hedonic treadmill means that people return to a baseline level of happiness relatively quickly after both positive and negative events. We anticipate that bad economic news will make us miserable for months, but in reality, we adapt within weeks. Our brains normalize new conditions much faster than we predict.
Okay, so we're wired to focus on the negative, the media amplifies it, and we're bad at predicting how things will actually feel. What does this mean for, society?
This perception gap has real consequences. When people believe the economy is worsening, they reduce spending and investment, which can actually cause economic slowdown, a self-fulfilling prophecy. They may make different political choices based on perceived rather than actual conditions. And chronic economic anxiety, even when unwarranted, contributes to stress-related health problems.
So our wrong beliefs can actually make things worse? That's kind of scary.
It's a feedback loop. But understanding the mechanism is the first step toward breaking it. When you recognize that your brain is systematically biased toward negative interpretations, you can consciously seek out balanced information. You can ask yourself, is this fear based on data or on availability?
That's actually helpful. So I should fact-check my feelings?
Essentially, yes. And recognize that your emotional response system was designed for a very different environment. The threats that trigger your anxiety today, economic news, political developments, are not the same as the survival threats your brain evolved to handle. The intensity of your emotional response may not match the actual risk level.
I feel like I understand myself a little better now. Is that weird?
Not at all. Self-awareness is the foundation of better decision-making. The goal isn't to eliminate negative perceptions entirely, sometimes they're warranted. The goal is to align your perceptions more closely with reality, to recognize when your brain is amplifying threats beyond their actual magnitude.
Thanks for breaking this down, New York. I'll definitely be more aware of how I process economic news from now on.
Thank you for joining me, Juan. And thank you to our viewers for watching. Remember, your brain is trying to protect you, but sometimes it works with outdated software. Understanding that is the first step toward clearer thinking. Until next time, observe deeply and question often.